Make no mistake, the fight to return governance to the citizens of the United States is not just an uphill battle. It's a battle for the very soul of our republic. The challenges we face are not mere happenstance or administrative missteps. They are deliberate, systemic strategies designed to consolidate power, marginalize dissent, and perpetuate the control of a political and bureaucratic elite that no longer serves the people. Consider the following critical areas of failure. The situation at the southern border reflects not mere negligence, but a strategic policy decision by the current Democratic administration. This policy has intentionally facilitated an unprecedented number of undocumented immigrants, overwhelming the established systems in place. The outcomes are clear: an overburdened social safety net, law enforcement resources strained to their limits, and a significant alteration in demographic patterns. To contextualize this with historical thought, consider Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, who observed, "The guards of a legitimate king is composed of citizens, that of a tyrant is composed of foreigners." He further elaborated, "It is a habit of tyrants never to like anyone who has a spirit of dignity and independence. The tyrant claims a monopoly of such qualities for himself. He feels that anybody who asserts a rival dignity or acts with independence is threatening his own superiority and the despotic power of his tyranny. He hates him accordingly as a subverter of his own authority. It is also a habit of tyrants to prefer the company of aliens to that of citizens at the table of society. Citizens, they feel, are enemies, but aliens offer no opposition." Aristotle's insights from 384 BC eerily resonate with what can be perceived today as the Democratic Party. These are not accidental byproducts, but the deliberate results of policies aimed at destabilizing and reconfiguring American society. Our education system, already under pressure, is now crumbling under the weight of an influx of students who often arrive without basic literacy skills, even in their native languages. The system is now forced to allocate resources to address these challenges, diverting attention away from the needs of American children.
Denver's public schools are also scrambling to keep up, with nearly 3,000 new migrant students.
So we've had around 100, which makes about 20% now of our student body. Now, over time,
Principal Brian Clark's school now receives 5 to 10 new students per week, what they used to get in an entire year. Now some classes have hit the 35 student limit, so some students have had to be transferred to other schools.
Miami-Dade is the 4th largest district in the country, and it estimates it costs an extra $2,000 per year to provide additional help to each foreign-born student. This year, the federal government gave Miami-Dade a $3.4 million grant to address those costs. But Superintendent Alberto Carvalho says it's not enough to fund special services for the thousands of new arrivals from Latin America.
Obviously, we didn't budget for an influx of students. And it's not just the cost of staffing, it's transportation, it's ancillary costs that we might not even be aware of at this time.
Without immediate action, we risk condemning an entire generation, both immigrant and native-born, to educational neglect. The priority must be clear. American children deserve a system that meets their needs first. The judiciary, once a cornerstone of impartial justice, has been weaponized to suppress political opposition and dissent. Lawfare has become the preferred tool of those in power, not to uphold the law, but to punish those who dare to challenge the status quo. This tactic isn't just about justice delayed, it's about justice denied. It isolates, overwhelms, and bankrupts its targets under the pretense of legality, stripping them of their resources, dignity, and humanity. In places like New York and Washington, D.C., politically motivated judges operate as enforcers of a predetermined agenda. Cases against dissenters are not adjudicated based on merit, but on political expediency. The message is clear. Opposing the political machine comes at a steep personal cost. Elon Musk, a visionary in the realm of innovation, once quipped that the construction of a rocket encounters fewer hurdles than navigating the labyrinthine regulatory approval process in the United States. While his comment might elicit a chuckle, it pierces through to reveal a stark, unsettling truth.
So what I see happening is that there are all sorts of there's a mountain of rules that actually don't benefit people, and then there's missing rules that do benefit people. So it's this bizarre Kafkaesque nightmare of regulations where ultimately the good of the people is not served.
Our regulatory system is not engineered to propel innovation, but rather to anchor it in red tape and bureaucratic inertia. The issue of government inefficiency and entitlement is starkly demonstrated in Fairfax County, Virginia, a locale teeming with federal bureaucrats. Here, the alarming trend of bureaucrats opting out of physical office attendance has reached critical levels. This isn't merely a shift to remote work, it signifies a deeper cultural malaise of entitlement, where physical presence is treated as optional and productivity is superficially gauged by digital footprints alone.
They have a moral right to work from home 10 hours a week at our expense at a far higher wage than the average American.
Oh, absolutely. So the funny thing is,
But they have a moral right. You can't complain about
you
it.
actually brought up a really interesting dimension of this. If you literally just mandated that they have to actually show up to work Monday through Friday, I know, radical idea.
They don't go to work.
Actually, a good number of them would quit that way. Right. That step alone. So you don't even have to talk about, you want a mass firing, a mass exodus? Just tell them they have to come back 5 days a week from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. Like many Americans, most Americans who work hard to earn a living in this country, just show up physically to work. You'd actually have about a 25% thinning out of the federal bureaucracy right there.
When you consider their substantial compensation packages, this scenario unfolds as perhaps the most audacious heist in American governmental history, where public service has morphed into a self-serving enterprise, detached from the taxpayers' expectations and the nation's needs. These individuals, whom we might more accurately term public thieves rather than public servants, have mastered the art of the illusion. They simulate service while effectively doing nothing, drawing salaries from the public coffers without contributing to the very progress they are supposed to facilitate. This scenario isn't just a local or isolated issue. It's symptomatic of a broader, systemic problem where bureaucratic processes are not about serving the public, but about preserving their own existence. This culture of stagnation not only delays innovation, but actively works against it, turning potential progress into prolonged procrastination.
Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. The Pentagon has just failed its 7th consecutive audit, nearly $1 trillion of budget. They can't even tell you where it goes. So I think part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste.
The consequences of these failures are not theoretical. They are visible to anyone willing to look. Streets littered with trash, dilapidated vehicles, and idle, undocumented immigrants have become the norm. Meanwhile, American citizens struggle to access basic services like healthcare, finding themselves pushed to the back of the line in a system that prioritizes others over its own people.
Really hard to take care of them, both in terms of their inability to pay, but also just the sheer volume of patients that we weren't expecting.
Denver has a population of 700,000 people. In just the last year, nearly 40,000 migrants have arrived, the mayor declaring a state of emergency. More than 8,000 migrants have come to Denver Health for care, and most of that is coming out of the hospital's pocket. The hospital says they need more help from federal and state government to pay for over $10 million in unpaid migrant medical bills so far.
The solution is not to accept this decline as inevitable. It is to confront it with bold, systemic reform. The entrenched bureaucracy, likened to a barrel of rotten apples, must be addressed not by removing a few individuals, but by reevaluating the entire structure. Piecemeal solutions will no longer suffice. Power must be decentralized to dismantle the stranglehold of the Washington, D.C. political machine. Federal agencies must be relocated closer to the populations they serve, reducing the concentration of influence and increasing accountability. Agencies must no longer be allowed to interpret laws in ways that harm citizens while shielding themselves from scrutiny. It is not enough to replace individuals at the top. Entire agencies must be reassessed for necessity and efficiency. Those that no longer serve a clear public benefit must be restructured or eliminated. This is not about dismantling government. It's about ensuring that government serves its constitutional mandate to work for the people. True reform requires that those who have weaponized their positions for personal or political gain be held accountable. These individuals must face the same bureaucratic labyrinth they've imposed on others. Stripping them of their positions is not enough. They must be made to answer for their actions under the same legal standards they've wielded against their targets. This isn't about revenge, it's about restoring justice and deterring future abuses of power. The political elite will not relinquish their power without a fight. They'll recycle the same tired narratives, labeling reformers as incompetent, extremists, or threats to democracy. But their hypocrisy is evident. They ask us to ignore their own failures, such as the disastrous leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and instead focus on demonizing those who seek to challenge the status quo. Their playbook relies on projection, accusing their opponents of the very crimes they commit. Lawfare, media manipulation, and bureaucratic inertia are their weapons of choice, and they will use them relentlessly unless confronted with equal resolve. The time has come to break the cycle of abuse within our institutions and reclaim the principles that have long defined our nation. This is not just a fight for policy changes, it is a battle for the heart and soul of the Republic. Centralized power and wealth have shown us what they produce: inefficiency, corruption, and a government disconnected from the people it serves. Moving forward requires more than rhetoric. It demands action. We must dismantle the systems that perpetuate inequality and inefficiency, replacing them with structures that prioritize accountability, transparency, and service to the public. This is not an impossible task. It's a necessary one. The stakes have never been more critical. As we stand on the precipice, with the specter of World War III looming under the guise of a faltering democracy, the urgency for a fundamental shift in our governance cannot be overstated. This isn't merely a call to correct policy missteps. It's a clarion call to safeguard the very essence of the American Republic. The government by rights belongs to the people, not to those who manipulate and misguide it for their own ends. To reclaim this institution, we need more than just policy reform. We require a renaissance of courage, a clarity of vision, and an unyielding dedication to justice. We represent the majority, yet we have allowed our voices to be drowned out by the din of the minority in power. The time has come to assert our numbers, our rights, and our collective will. The swamp, long a metaphor for entrenched corruption and inefficiency, must not only be drained but transformed into fertile ground for genuine public service. This endeavor transcends generations. It's about securing a future where our children inherit a nation of integrity, not one teetering on the brink of self-destruction. This is our moment to rise, to confront the formidable challenges ahead, and to restore a government that not only serves but is in harmony with the will of its people. This duty falls upon us, the citizens of the United States, to act with urgency and resolve. Let us embrace this mission with the fervor it demands, for it is our right, our responsibility, and indeed our legacy to a nation we hold dear.